Hello, everyone, and welcome to Press Start, the podcast that's everything and anything video games. I'm your host, Azure, and today we're going to talk about early access games. It's been, let's see, I can't, I couldn't look up like pinpoint like what the first game was early access or whatnot or how long ago this has been going on, but it's been going on for the past like 10 years, 5, 10 years, I think. If I with trying to think of early access stuff, and what it does is what early access is. I mean, everyone should know what it is, but early access is the game comes out early, or the game is out, not fully, and so some companies have it where you pay for the game or whatnot. Some of it is free, but you'll have the game come out, and they'll have it up to a certain point, and then they'll come out with another like that while they're playing, they're getting this money for for more development and all that. Then they'll come out with the next section and let you play it there, yada yada yada, so on and so forth, until they get close to the end of the game, and then they will officially release it and it's out of early access. My problem with early access, and why you'll never see me play an early access game, is the fact of the matter is if I'm going to play through the game incrementally with early access, and then have the game come out, but then have to restart my progress all over again, go through all the stuff I've already seen and play, and get to the end of the game, which is the stuff they would have added that, didn't get to, that could be anywhere from, 5, 10, 20 hours of gameplay you have to get through again to get to the end. And at that point, I'm like, I've already played a lot of it. So there's no point, even though I've already bought the game. And it's like, I get it. I kind of understand why early access has become kind of a thing because some of these could be like indie game developers. So it's like, oh, let's put our game out in early access, have them put a price on it so people can buy it, so they can use that money to keep, you know, working on the game, so they can fund development and all that. But at the same time, it's like I feel like it's a cock tease. You've gone through a majority of the game, and now have to go through it all over again to like get to the part that I haven't seen. I don't remember Baldur's Gate 3 in early access. Or if they never actually leave early access, so you just wait for some voice. And see, but here, like, I guess, like, Project Zomboid and 7 Days to Die. Oh, they're like, okay, early access was only one act. Okay, that kind of makes sense. But, and I didn't know about it, and I didn't play the early access. But games like Project Zomboid and 7 Days to Die, which are just like purely survival game, which is survival games, just seeing how long you can last and all that. Early access for those games are fine, I think, because people will replay them over and over again just to see, oh, let's see what my luck is, see if I can get further and all that. So that's fine, but it becomes like Raft for instance, because I watched Markiplier, Bob, and Wade play it before it officially came out. So it's like they play up to a certain point, realize uh they got to a certain point, it wasn't in there, so they stopped playing. New update come out, they'd play that, get to the point to where the next thing wasn't there, and they stopped playing it. Then the game came out, they played all the way back up to where they got in the early access build, and they haven't gone back to it because it's like it having to redo it with something that isn't doesn't have like a great replay. We're saying here is early access on story-based games are not good. Yes, on story-based games, I guess I should have said that. But like RPG-wide games that are like linear and you have a path that you have to go and you have to do and all that, they're not good. If it's like a survival game, a shooter, those I think are perfectly fine because those are going to be different every time you play, which is 100% fine. That's how those games are supposed to go. Open worlds depends on what their main thing is. They like, I mean, linear for open world, they don't usually go hand in hand, but yeah, I guess open worlds would be good. And I don't think Power World is in early access. I think it's a fully fledged out game, to my knowledge. I might be wrong, but to my knowledge, I think Power World is not in early access. It is out. But yeah, like 7 Days to Die. Been in early access for 10 years. At some point, you've just got to release the game. You just got to be like, hey, here's the game. It's fine. We'll do patches if things come up, just like any other game now. If something breaks, if there's a bug. But being in early access for long, like Fortnite was either early access or beta for like 6 years. Early access achieves a couple things. One, it helps keep in interest interested in community. It helps the developers catch fix bugs, and it helps the developers continue funding the development. Well, Power World is early access. That's interesting. I didn't know that. And see, the thing is, the whole interest I get, but because it's like, okay, this person's playing early access, and all these people are saying great reviews to other players. I just feel like if you're gonna do early access, just do like a yeah, no. Very so that is how it is. Let's do this. No, Power World is a full release. It's not early access. But I think what we need to get away I feel like for the most part, and people might, shit on me and tell me I'm stupid and don't know what I'm talking about, is instead of having early access, now that I'm about to say it out loud, it does sound stupid. It sounds kind of like the same thing. I was going to say have like a paid beta, but instead of paying like full price for the game, what the game's full price is, pay like 5, $10 to do beta, because that would feel better, I think. But then I say it out loud, and it feels like it's the same thing as early access. See, the thing with Itch.io though, because I've played some games on Itch.io, mostly how can I put this? Of the adult manner. That's what I use. It's still real. Okay, that's weird. Uh, yeah. Um, but see, a lot of those on Itch.io for me, they're free that I've played, and when they add something new, so far, I mean, of culture, it's they like just allow you to have your saving going. I mean, at some point, some of these might be really like, oh, I'll give a good one, but this isn't on Itch.io. Corruption and Corruption of Champions 2. Great game. Enjoy the hell out of those. But when Corruption of Champions got finally completed, when Finexo, you know, finally finished it, he didn't have it to where people had to restart it. You could just do the end of the game, the last bit of the game that they added, without having to restart. If they did that with early access games now, that'd be great because you've already paid full price for the game. You've already spent however long, how many hours getting through all the stuff. If they just made it to where your save could, you continue from the save when the game goes full release, I feel like that would be better because that's why I don't play. Yeah, I feel like that would be better than the early access model that is going now, where once the game is out of early access and is fully released, they you have to start all over. That feels like a big slap in the face. Especially those who have bought the game and supported you all this way. And it's a reason for you were able to continue development. Now I have to play the game all over again? Screw that. That's the quickest way I can tell you to have me not want to play your game anymore. Hands down, is having me have to restart for some stupid reason. Yes, if you're just gonna, I mean, that's why you'll see me play early access games, hands down, because I'm not gonna go through that. I know, and live service, I don't see anything wrong with live service. I just, they just have to, developers, studios, companies have to have the game be pretty much gold when they first come up, instead of having the game be shit on release and then make patches to make it good. That's why I rarely buy any games on release now. Unless it's a highly anticipated game I'm looking forward to from a company that I know doesn't do that, I'm not buying games on release. Yeah, I mean, it also worked for Skyrim. Skyrim was terrible on release, but then after months of patches, it's a great game. But it's like that's also a big slap to people who are supporting you and buying the game. If the game is shit on release and you have to do months of patches to make it good and work, then just take longer in development. Make sure it's good. Because what was it? What was it? Anthem, I remember. Anthem was shit on release. It was rushed out. The community died. The game is, I think its servers were taken down like a year after it was released or less because it was shit on release. And that's the problem. Yeah. Nowadays, modding does help games, which I feel like this might be a hot topic. This might be controversial. Modders need to not touch games for the first like 6 months, in my opinion, because they take it on themselves to fix the game in a way to where it can be played for people and can download these mods. Like, oh, this bug isn't going to happen because this indie modder looked into the code and fixed it. We're giving uh we're giving outs to developers with the modding community early. Most of the time, games get rushed out, has little to do with the development team. It's greedy executives rush to release something they can sell in a hurry so they don't have to pay the dev as much for the project. This could go about it as people who beta such early access have some kind of reward or limit how many people can buy it early. But I agree. I know it's less of developers and more of the executives. But at the same time, my stance still holds true to my. It doesn't matter if it's the developers rushing out the executives. Modders need to like not touch the game for the first 6 months. Let people realize, oh, the developers are rushing out shitty games, and we're rewarding them for it by buying it, knowing that modders are going to make the game better before the developers, companies, studios, whatever fix it. That's my problem with games nowadays. Well, or at least with studios. There are very few studios. I blame Bethesda for everything wrong with. I agree because Bethesda is one of the bigger perpetrators of this. Same with EA. Those two are both equally the blame, but I think Bethesda might have a little bit more blame. It might be more of root cause, but it's just it's just fucking EA microtrans. Oh yeah, that's right. EA's microtransactions. Fucking horse almost started the microtransactions. Yeah, and it's just We are letting developers, studios, companies, whatever word you want to use, keep doing these things, and we are just allowing them because we're like, oh, I want to buy this, or because I want to play this game. I'm going to do it, even though it's going to be shit on release, or I'm going to keep buying these microtransactions, like Diablo 4. No, I don't think that. I mean, Diablo 4 probably has. I mean, it has come under scrutiny to where the news like horse armor is more than a brand new game, and I know people will buy it. So it's like, okay, they're not going to get punished by it. They're not going to be like, oh, this was a mistake. They're going to keep doing it because we reward them, and I feel like we as gamers have to look at ourselves and be like, oh, we are allowing all this to happen. We can blame EA in these things, but we also have to be like, oh, we're rewarding them and buying these things and stuff like that. EA took the idea of Microsoft to turn their whole company into it. Yeah. So that's how I feel. That's how I feel about early access and all that. All that. I feel like it's I guess a lot of my stances on stuff on a bunch of stuff is we as gamers are to blame. And it sucks, but it's something that we have to look at ourselves because we are. And I mean, I'm to blame. I'm not just saying I'm not saying I'm perfect. I know I've done it. So, but that's all I have to say about early access. I do want to go to something else because I saw this article and the title of it. I didn't read the whole article because the title said it enough. Let me pull up the title of the article before I start talking about it because this just blew my mind that casuals and soloers need challenging MMO content too. That whole phrase is an oxymoron or whatever the phrase is to where nothing makes sense. Because the thing with MMOs, they're massive multiplayer online games. They are meant to be played with other people. If you're going to buy an MMO or play an MMO, you understand the fact that you'll be playing with other people. If you're playing an MMO for solo content, you're wasting your money. Play a regular RPG or something. Because you're not going to find solo stuff. You can probably go through a majority of the story of the game, or probably all the way up to the end of the story of the game and all that of the MMO solo for the most part. But see, here's the thing. I know people might say Genshin is an MMO, and I can see where you're coming from, but it's also not. At least not in the traditional sense of an MMO. Because in an MMO, you think of WoW, you think of Final Fantasy 14, you think of, I mean, I don't know if anyone's going to remember this game. This is the first MMO I played. Ultima Online, RuneScape, the where in the world you're always going to see people. It's just going to happen. Everyone is on a server. You can go into town and you'll see 100 other people or more. I haven't played Albion. I actually have never played RuneScape either. So, but I knew they were just it was an MMO. But like, see, that's MMO. Genshin is for the most part, unless you're invited or whatnot to someone else's game or whatnot, you don't see anybody else. You can play all of Genshin on your own. You don't need anybody else. But to people, to anybody out there who plays an MMO who is complaining and saying, I play solo, I should have content that's tailored to me, a solo person, that's just wrong. Because then don't play an MMO. Because you're not going to get solo stuff. Now, the whole thing for casuals is it's in the name casual. You're not here to really do like a lot of the end game stuff. You're just going to do the dungeons, the party finder raids that, pairs you up with, at least in Final Fantasy, it's 8, 16, 24, pairs you up with 23 other people randomly to do it. I know WoW introduced Raid Finder, and I can't remember how many people, how many different people is in one of those because it's been a while since I played. But that's like the extent of the end game stuff you're gonna do. If you're wanting to do heroic, if you're wanting to do savage, which is Final Fantasy, well, that's kind of how our Minecraft server works right now. But for that kind of stuff, like casuals, you have the hardcore stuff. What was the exact or challenging? Casual and challenging is not doesn't work. If you want challenging, you have to be I can't say a sweat because in MMOs it's not really a sweat. Uh you just need to be just end game. You need to be a raider. Casual stuff and challenging just doesn't work. I've always been an end game kind of player. WoW, I did heroic raiding. I did all that kind of stuff. Final Fantasy 14, even though I haven't played in months, I did all the end game savage raiding, the hardest stuff. I enjoy it because it's fun. It's challenging. It's a grind. But I can't believe I read that article and my brain exploded with just the stupidity of everything. Whoever wrote that needs to get a reality check. And I'm not even going to read the whole article because the title says it all and the title makes no sense. The whole just shut up. You know what? I'm going to blast this person. Who wrote that article? By Tyler F.M. Edwards. You are horrible. Not horrible. That's a bit far. You don't understand anything about MMOs if that's the title of your thing. You have done no research. You just listen to people who wanted to cry and do all this stuff and wrote a whole article. Maybe you're one of these people. Then you need to stop being casual. It's filthy casual. That's what you are. You have your challenging content. If you want more challenging content than what you have, stop being casual. So Tyler F.M. Edwards of Massively Overpowered. Your opinion means nothing. Bit harsh, but that's how I feel. So that's all I have to say. Questions? If you're new here, give me questions about anything I've talked about in this episode or just general gaming questions. If you don't have any, then we'll end the episode and then figure out. Yeah, we'll end the episode. JRPG or RPG? If you're asking which one I'm fine with both. I grew up on JRPGs, So I kind of lean more towards them, but I'm fine with either. Only if you're asking me to only pick one to play for the rest of my life and all that, it would have to be JRPGs. Like I said, I grew up on JRPGs. Technically, if you people might not think, oh, Final Fantasy is a JRPG. It originated in Japan or in an Asian country. I'm not sure it was technically in Japan, but it's still classified, I think, as a JRPG. And that's the sole reason why I would have to pick JRPGs. Plus, there are a lot of other good ones too, and that's why I would pick. I just feel like they're more better written, characters are more fleshed out. A lot of them take chances with mechanics and all that, with game mechanics, fight mechanics, storytelling. So they're just a lot more interesting. That's why I'd have to pick JRPGs. Any others? It's okay if you don't have any. I'm just very curious. If there's one thing I can talk about all day is games. Anything about games. Okay. No other questions? Okay. Oh. Oh. Thank you everyone for coming. This was Press Start, the podcast that's anything and everything video games. I do these every Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, or 6 or 7 p.m. Eastern. Uh, yeah, thanks for coming. Have a good night.